Well, let's end this lecture by looking at the oldest body in the world. And this is Otzi, who was found in the ice high up in the Alps. And he was found high up in the mountains by a pair of hikers. And what had happened is that the warmer climate had caused a lot of snow and ice to melt, and his body had become partially exposed. Well, when he was seen by these two hikers, they of course assumed that he was a recent accident victim, and they called the local authorities. And then of course it was realized he wasn't a recent accident victim. He had actually been up there in the ice for many, many years. And it turns out that he had died up there in the mountains 5,000 years ago. His body had been covered in snow, encased in the ice, and it had been preserved for 5,000 years. And many of his possessions, such as the axe he had with him, his clothes, were also preserved. We don't know why he was up in the mountains. We do know that he was injured. There's an arrowhead buried in one of his shoulders. But we also know that he found a rather curious place to die. When these two hikers were hiking in the mountains, they thought they were inside Austrian territory. So when the body was found, it was taken to Innsbruck in Austria for further study. It was only later that someone realized that he had actually crossed by a few meters into what is now Italian territory to die. So the Austrians had to hand him over to the Italians, and now he's in a museum of his own in Bolzano, Italy. So Otzi is believed to be the oldest body in the world, preserved by the ice and snow of the Alps. Well, in this lecture, we have looked at many different techniques that can be used to determine time of death, depending on how long the victim has been dead. We've looked at rigor mortis, alga mortis, and liver mortis, which last for a day or so, or 2 days. We've taken a look at some of the circumstantial evidence that can be used and will be increasingly used. For bodies that have been dead a bit longer, we can look at the state of putrefaction. We can do some entomology with the maggots. And then getting into more historical archaeological territory, we have fun analysis, we have bone fluorescence, we have carbon-14 dating. But all the time, whichever technique we use to determine time of death, we have to understand that it can be affected by external environmental factors, so all of these estimates are subject to errors of one magnitude or another.